I'm not supporting a group of people that would, you know, a gay person or a trans person for existing. It's not even a question. These people would be the ones doing the thing if they had the power. They have built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a river when people who have that's baked into their laws are getting, they're terrible people. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They are not the same as us, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Asmongold. You may know him as the guy who is allergic to water.
Hey guys, it's me again, and last night I ended what happened to be the longest streak that I've ever had of not taking a shower, about a month and a half. And I made a tweet about this, and I said that I hadn't showered in a month. There were a lot of people who I suppose weren't real viewers of mine, thought that I was lying, and a lot of my real viewers said that it was a good start.
Or as the guy who saves snacks on his wall in the form of iron pills, we could say.
Why is there blood? Well, I used to have problems with my teeth, right? And so what I have to do is like, my teeth would bleed at night. So it would just like accumulate and dry in my mouth. So like whenever I'd wake up, I'd take my finger and I'd just dig it out of my gums and I'd just smear it on the wall.
Iron streaks. Have you ever played Iron Lung? Well, that's Asmongold's room simulator. Asmongold got absolutely busted for having some pretty dumb takes. I'd actually argue very stupid takes. It kind of amazed me when I saw the clip because I remember like it's been a kind of slow and steady progression here where Asmongold has gone from being kind of not as invested, I guess, in the conflict or whatever, like a little bit of both sidesing, to clearly, okay, much more, you know, sympathetic to the Israeli side than now, where we're seeing takes from him that are just like, dumb. Not just ideological, but hateful as well.
They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
You know, there's a couple questions that run through my mind. Is Asmongold going through some kind of a personal problem that he would just so flagrantly say something like that on camera? In my opinion, that's probably not necessarily the case. He seems like a guy who can put up with quite a lot of disorganization in his personal life or whatever, but it's more than likely the case, in my opinion, that he suffered from a little bit of, you could say, audience capture. Okay, this is a term that I've heard thrown around, and it basically means when your audience pegs you as this type of content creator, this is the person that I come to for this opinion. And what can happen is that if your audience captures you and pegs your ass, well, they can grow to basically influence you and have you kind of regurgitating opinions that feeds the horde, right? And so that's not necessarily what I imagine Asmongold was doing, but because Asmongold spends so much of his life, his time, energy, his fucking existence on the internet, live streaming, okay? Because so much of his experience of this world is off of a screen. I think that the boy got lost in the sauce. And he started over the last months and months and months as he's kind of shifted toward basically supporting the Israeli side, even though, of course, he would probably deny that. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that it's pretty fucking obvious. Your bias is showing beyond, you know, any kind of argument, in my opinion. And so as he's gotten more and more and more and more comfortable, basically, in pushing out these talking points while positioning himself as like, oh, I'm just kind of an objective observer a little bit. As he's gotten more and more comfortable, and his audience that he has cultivated has gotten more and more comfortable hearing him say these things, well, it's created a little bit of a feedback loop where basically he'll just start saying a little bit more edgy or like, you know, questionable fucking takes, and he'll get reinforced because the chat's not really checking him, and we end up with this kind of a situation where basically he got smacked in the fucking mouth like a bad boy after he steals a cookie. Anyway, and that cookie was obviously him effectively implying that hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people deserve to die. Happens to the best of us, but mainly the worst. Anyway, this is not that surprising in that kind of a context, right? Because For me, it's like, okay, so you hear the sound bites and it's like, ooh, Jesus Christ, this guy's fucked. How has he gotten away with this for so long? And it's like, no, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you keep towing the line, basically, of saying things that your own audience won't really question too much. And then you get to the point where you accidentally kind of just get flagrant and you say something so fucking loose and a little bit edgy. And your audience doesn't even necessarily react that badly. But once it escapes your fucking echo chamber, or, you know, just your audience, once it escapes and enters orbit, which is just like, you know, Twitter clips, once it gets blown up outside of your community, you're like, oh, fuck, look what that guy's doing. What the fuck? What the hell? You tell me that this guy's got 20,000 fucking gamers listening to him every single fucking day? He's one of the biggest Twitch streamers and he's fucking saying that? Well, I don't know about that. Effectively, he got popped, okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Asmongold is just always spewing hate speech. That is not the case. Not nearly from what I've seen. This probably was a kind of, you know, a particularly flamboyant? I don't know, just fucking aggressive little soundbite, little rant that he was going on. But I do think that in a very, very ironic little moment of clarity potentially, Asmongold actually did tell the truth about what he thinks. I think he did drop kind of the mask in a way and kind of unfiltered. Like, he got a little too comfortable and he became unfiltered about what his actual opinion is on this conflict or about the cultures involved in the conflict. Effectively, he kind of unveiled the mask, okay? And what he said is, in a way, genuinely very fucking reflective, from my experience at least, of what the average boomer or average, like, you know, kind of enlightened centrist, whatever, would think about this, you know, conflict or about, you know, Arab cultures in general. It's basically like a loose feeling of like, fuck them, they're uncivilized. In a way, he's kind of saying the quiet part out loud, and he is an interesting encapsulation, right, of this, I wouldn't say necessarily fully enlightened centrist, although he's a little bit like that for sure. Asmongold, to me, represents the average person conservative who doesn't like necessarily identify with that label. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a proud conservative showing their stripes and trying to really reinforce like, I'm a conservative. He's just like kind of an average person, more or less, or like adult or parent, where it's like they're kind of conservative, but they're not gonna like really advertise it that much. And so in a way, while Penguin Zero, I would say, is kind of a little bit more like the average liberal, in my opinion, the vibe I get. I know that obviously these labels are very, you know, you can't peg them 100%. But like, if Penguin Zero kind of represents the average kind of not really too invested liberal, Asmongold to me represents the average kind of not too invested conservative. Yeah. Everyone's fucking outraged about the clip, and I understand why, because yes, he does have a big fucking audience and etc., etc. But it's funny that people are outraged about that clip when a lot of the fucking opinions that Asmongold has been saying for the last fucking months and months and months and months are basically a natural deviation from that raw moment where he's basically revealing his entire fucking stance. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to a topic like this, which is extremely contentious and a little bit dangerous to navigate. For somebody to get that loose, that confident, that unfiltered, it speaks to a level of having not been checked. Asmongold, I've been observing him for a while, and I did get a vibe of like, holy shit, this guy is way in over his head. He is very much a reactionary. I've said this before, and it's not really an applicable context, but he's like a little bit reactionary. And that's not me just saying like most of his time online is spent reacting, because it is. If you look at Asmongold's Clips channel, it's actually insane how much money that he gets to harvest by just basically yapping. I mean, respect, right? But it's crazy that somebody whose entire, I mean, the majority, I would say, of his livelihood is based on his opinions, mine too, I guess you could say, that someone like that would have such unexamined, authentic values or authentic takes, you know what I mean? And so this is kind of what I wanted to bring it to. There is examined behavior and there's unexamined behavior. And what's interesting is that, and this applies not just to fucking Asmongold, this applies to you and me. You probably, I don't know you, but maybe you have some family members who are racist. I don't know you. Maybe you're homophobic. The point that I'm getting at is that there's behavior that is examined and there's behavior that is unexamined, okay? And so most cases, not all, but most, when you're in a private environment you'll have a family member who will be racist or homophobic or sexist or whatever. When they're in a situation where they're being examined, usually they'll understand, like, okay, I can't fucking get away with, acting like this without causing a scene, right? I'll give you an example. I don't know you. I don't know what your home life was like. But it's possible, okay, that when you would be alone with your family, there would be some shit that went down that was like, if anybody was an outside observer looked at, they'd be like, oh, that's fucked up. You know what I mean? So like, I'll just give you like a really, stereotypical example, okay? Let's picture that you are like misbehaving with your brothers or something like that, and then your father threatens to fucking hit you with a belt. He gives the good old, boy, I'll fucking whip you into next Tuesday, boy. Let's say that that's the case. All right. Now, any school teacher, any aid worker, basically any especially like a government representative or anything like that, they would see that. They would examine that behavior, and they would be like, oh, yeah. So we're going to have an aid worker coming by and interviewing you and making sure that you're actually fit to raise these children. You understand? And so this is all me basically leading to point out that a lot of the times, okay, weird fucking behavior, weird takes, weird climate of opinion can get completely fucking normalized within, a kind of enclosed community, all right? And the second that an outsider from that community observes and examines that weird behavior, they will understand, like, oh, wow, holy fuck, these people are in deep. But the people who are in deep have no fucking, like context or understanding of how, warped what they're experiencing is, right? Anyway, this is not me saying that Asmongold is abusing his viewers. I'm just giving that example to basically point out that within Asmongold's community, I don't think that those takes, while of course they're spicy, okay, but I don't think that those takes ring in the ears of his viewers nearly as, loud and harshly as they would basically with, the general Twitter crowd, right? And so this is an example where Asmongold got a little bit too comfortable, okay? He wasn't used to the scrutiny, basically, and every time that he did kind of cross a little bit of a line, Hasan would nicely, politely call him, and they'd have like a little discussion about it. Basically, he wouldn't actually get into that much fish. In fact, he pretty much did get kind of a lot of praise for the way that he's dealt with, debating Hasan and all this. And so, when he gets too comfortable, basically, the climate is favorable to him, he loses awareness of how disconnected and how fucking, actual mouth breather, behind the screen, his takes can potentially be, right? And he got a little bit too loose. And when he got a little bit too loose, because he's streaming on the fucking internet, of course, it got shared around and it got examined, and guess what happened? Guess what happens when unexamined behavior ends up getting examined on a mass scale? The fucking government comes in and shoots you in the head. They're like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm sorry, sir, but that's unexamined behavior right there. That is not okay. Bang! You're dead. And that is exactly what happened. Twitch took action and suspended Asmongold for, I believe, a week or two, okay? And we're going to react to Asmongold's statement, but long story short, he knows he fucked up, okay? I get the vibe that this guy, he understands. He took a step back, an authentic step back, and he was like, holy shit, I was lost in the sauce. How the fuck did I get to the point where I was saying something like that? And the answer is pretty simple, and it could happen, I think, to anybody, really. You simply follow a little train of thought, and eventually you get so comfortable in kind of reinforcing a certain train of thought that you start saying things you didn't even think you believed, right? You start saying things that they feel natural to say, but when you stop and examine what you're saying, you're like, why the fuck am I saying that? That's the case of Asmongold. He didn't understand that he did have that, deeply rooted fucking bias against, basically, Arabic nations, Arabic culture, all this. And there's many rants and fucking deviations I could go down in regard to this. I mean, let me know if you'd want to hear them, but I didn't want to focus so much on the specific comments. I just wanted to kind of talk on a meta level about how the hell this happened, right? Because obviously a lot of people, their frame for Asmongold is just like, okay, ew, like, you know, neck beard, a fucking mouth breather, like, you know, like all these kind of like character, like, and I guess it's true, but like, yes, okay, he's gross. Yes, it's funny, whatever. But at the end of the day, the guy does have a massive audience for giving his opinions. And he really, on the surface level, especially, he does present a very kind of rational, grounded perspective, you would think, right? And so how can this like kind of rational, grounded-ish type guy get to the point where he's saying something like fucking that's so overtly, obviously gonna get him in trouble? And the answer is basically just getting too comfortable in his echo chamber. Simple as. You know what I mean? And so I've been seeing a lot of arrogance from Asmongold. Never Knows Best, one of my favorite YouTubers, he outlined how Asmongold would kind of blindly adopt certain narratives within the gaming sphere that were like anti-woke, and just like super like not examining them. You know what I mean? Like Asmongold would kind of pick up on a little bit of a wave that he saw occurring, and he wouldn't get any pushback, right? Because his viewers are kind of primed to be like, oh yeah, woke stuff is kind of cringe. You know what I mean? Even though the specific, you know, in that instance, it was basically like almost canceling a guy for shit that he never really said. I'll let you watch that video by Never Knows Best, but yeah, that's pretty much the rant, and he has no friends. Yeah. Here's what I'll say as well. I've seen a lot of people mentioning Hasan in the same breath as Asmongold and pointing out basically that Hasan has said very, you know, controversial things and has not gotten banned. In fact, has been kind of elevated and celebrated at Twitch. Whereas Asmongold, the second that he basically goes gamer mode, he gets banned. And look, I understand pointing these things out, but there's some people who have basically said like Asmongold should not have apologized because of like this double standard or whatever. And that's stupid. That's just straight up stupid. Because what Asmongold said, as he agreed with, was fucking stupid. And so for him to, the idea that like, oh, because Hasan's not banned, I shouldn't apologize or whatever, yeah, it's fucking dumb. Like, he should just take his case as it is and, you know, own it. You know what I mean? Because I think that's a bit of a cope, right? It's like, oh, I shouldn't have been banned because Hasan's not banned. I mean, you can think that he shouldn't be banned, I understand. And I definitely understand that there are absolutely fucking double standards at Twitch. Honestly, Twitch is a very weird company. I could rant about that for a long fucking time. I would love to, but I have to go. I'm at work. Tell me the cliff notes about Asmongold this stream. Okay. Who wins in the twerk off, Asmongold or Andrew Tate? Definitely Tate. Asmongold has no meat on his ass. I'm sorry. I had to say it. We were all thinking it. I just had to be the one to say it. Okay? It turns out that Mountain Dew does not translate well to ass fat. Tough. Honestly, he might not even have like bones in his body. It might just be, what's it called? What's that shit that insects have? Insects don't have bones, right? Exoskeleton. Yeah. Exoskeleton, right? Wait, skeleton. Are those bones? Do bugs have bones? Oh, they do not have an internal skeleton like we do. Oh, damn. Get owned. Oh, shit. Oh, you weren't supposed to see that Google search.